Hey everyone, welcome to episode 31 of the Mid-Geek Crisis. My name is Joe, and my partner in crime,
Pedro, Cautious Online.
Hey guys, so 31 episodes, here we go. Second half of 60? I don't know. We're going to keep making milestones upon milestones.
It's a beautiful prime number, right? 31.
It is.
Is it? Yeah, 31 is a prime number.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So some things dropped. I feel like we drop an episode and then all the good stuff happens the day after. And what I mean by good stuff is the day after we put up the episode, we had news about the movie that we are all waiting for, which is Sonic the Hedgehog, which in a smart move and a not surprising move, Paramount.
To me, I went back and I totally said they wouldn't delay for revamping the graphics. They delayed to revamp the graphics.
No, I mean, yeah, I think all the smart animators out there were like, this isn't going to happen. You can't do that. So they were like, there's no way they can keep that release date. And sure enough, they could not. And that is what happened. They have delayed Sonic the Hedgehog to Valentine's Day 2020.
It's great. Thank you. It's the perfect Valentine's Day gift. How could my partner or date or any partner say no to that as a Valentine's Day gift, right? Let's go out. Let's take a date out.
I have the date blocked out.
Now, I haven't done any research, but I wonder if that's also a nice sweet spot between Disney films, right? You don't want to put Sonic up against Avengers or Marvel or Star Wars or whatever movie they might be putting out at the time.
I didn't see anything for the date that they were already releasing on.
February is usually a slow month. Like it's not usually after.
January is the month for movies to go die. That's
painful for Sonic. Maybe they'll turn that around.
So, but February 14th is not. February 14th is a very powerful day. I mean,
it's like a romantic holiday movie, though. It's not a. It's like right before the Oscars too.
A good example.
Right after the Super Bowl
Deadpool has been released around that time.
Yeah, but Deadpool is like a big. They like messing around.
No, I get it. But what I'm saying is it's no longer as low key of a date as you would.
That's true.
There have been major movies released on that day because they know that it's an instant date night movie.
Yeah, and I guess they're taking it seriously, right? Because I don't know if I was what's his name, Tyson Neese. I guess he's a Sonic animator or a Sonic artist. There's some rumors that he might be involved in the redesign work because of the way the redesigned sign looked, the 2014, the July 14, whatever. The sign that Sonic was holding had the right glove, and the animation style looked very much like this animator that everyone loves, I guess, who does Sonic. I don't know enough about that world. In fact, this past weekend, I was at a thrift store, and I was flipping through Sonic comics, and I had no idea how many comics.
Oh, my God. You were unaware.
Huh?
You were unaware of the Archie comics run of Sonic.
I had no idea that Mega Man hung out with Sonic at one point or another. Like the amount of like.
So let me.
You don't need to. No. I don't.
No, the public must know. Archie Comics are Archie, the brand that they are their own publishing title. They have been running, or they have. It just ended recently, like a year or two ago. The Sonic the Hedgehog comic has been at one of their longest runs. It is like over 5 to 10 years. Sonic the Hedgehog run, and it is serialized, introduction to new characters, actual canon, like not actual canon anything Sega's done, but just like they've made this overarching story arc, introduce characters, etc. And it's so popular, in fact, that when I think IDW got the rights to Sonic. They bought the comic rights. They canned that story. They killed that world, and the revolt behind that was infamous in the Sonic fandom community.
But I've spent years learning it all.
Right. I mean, it was like it would be like
like killing off all the Star Wars canon. Come on, dude. We've done this.
No, sure. You're right. I mean, absolutely. But Sonic, I mean, the Sonic fans don't really have much to hold on to. They've got their.
Oh my God!
Let's be honest.
Do not anger the Sonic fans.
they've got the original. They've just had such bad luck, right? Like they're one of those they're one of those
Bad.
franchises in general that have been put through punishment. Like they get hyped every Sonic release game, like every major game that gets announced. They're like, oh, here it is, here's the next Sonic game, and then it sucks bad. And then they release the next one, and then they're like, everyone gets their hopes up, and they're like, and it sucks again. And so like out of
being a Knicks fan. It's like being a Knicks
like being a Knicks fan. It's like being a Knicks fan.
Every year you're like,
every year. Completely disappointed. You know, like a good example is they thought this new one, Sonic Forces, was going to be it. They're like, oh, the Switch, and they've learned and whatever, and it sucked. But the upside of it was that they ended up getting Sonic Mania, which ended up being a fantastic game. But the sad part about Sonic Mania is it was originally done by they hired a specific designer or creator that had made a fan game that then was then hired by Sega to port a specific version of the game, Sega CD, to mobile. And then he took the engine, rewrote it, and made a Sonic Mania. So it's essentially a classic Sonic game, like an old Genesis style game. So it's not anything new. It's just that Sega Genesis style in a new game, which is what I guess Sonic people want. But Sonic players in general do want a new, like something to compete with like the modern Mario games that is equally as good. Like Mario gets Odyssey, and
so you keep up with this much more than I do, because
I do.
The fandoms just make me sick most of the time when I try to dive into this.
Sonic fans are kind of like they're the ones
not Sonic. Let's
make my heart
on Super Mario. Is there a community of Super Mario Brothers fans that hate the new Super Mario Brothers and thinks it should be pure platformer?
So no, yes and no. There are, but they're not as vocal as you would think, because and the reason is because Nintendo has created multiple offshoots of Mario, right? So you still have platforming 2D style Mario with the new series, the new Super Mario Brothers series, Part 1, Part 2, the new Super Mario Brothers U, etc. Then you have the 3D worlds, and
you have all the bastardization games.
Well, you've got and then you've got all the sports titles and all that. But the big ones are you've got the 3D worlds and the 2D worlds. So the 3D worlds would be like Super Mario 64 and Mario Sunshine and Mario
everyone knows this.
Galaxy 1 and 2. So you've got two offshoots. So you were able to please both sides of the fans. Nintendo knows how to do that. They did it with Zelda, for example. Zelda has the mainstream 3D world like Ocarina of Time and Twilight Princess, but then every so often they'll release like a top-down view, a Link to the Past / whatever view, and so you still get two mainline games that give you.
Doesn't Sonic do that, or is it just that the ones they release suck?
No, they really don't. They did it this time around. That's what they did.
It's hard to do speedy games in 3D, though.
It is. So that's what they did. They did with Sonic Forces. They released a 3D game and then kind of a 2D game. That was their first time they did it, and the 2D one did fantastic. The 3D one, not so much. And so they were overambitious. You could tell that some things were rushed. Who knows? I don't want to get
into it by committee. They stuffed a lot of stuff into it.
Yeah.
I know what that's like.
So,
anyway, Valentine's Day, 2020. It's gonna be great. 2/14/20. It's gonna be an awesome night out.
We will be following this pretty much with the amazing award-winning director Jeff Fowler behind the helm of this movie.
And Chris Pratt, right? Chris Pratt, right?
Chris Pratt and the Oscar-winning director Jeff Fowler. With this movie.
Well, we're talking about video game movies. Let's transition quickly and roughly into Netflix and Jessica Jones, right? So, honestly, I saw the teaser drop and I saw the news and I was like, wait, I thought we were done. Like I completely forgot we had a third season for Jessica Jones. Yeah. So it was kind of a pleasant news, but then it was like super bittersweet, right? It was
it's like a knife to the grib.
Yeah,
like a spot that you're not going to die instantly of, but you're just like, oh god,
oh man, and Jessica Jones was probably my favorite of the characters.
Yeah, I mean, I was partial to Luke Cage just because I really enjoyed the setting of the first season.
I really enjoyed the setting of the first season too. I didn't think they did enough with this character. They were braver with Jessica Jones. I thought her character was much more interesting than Luke. They played it safe with Luke Cage, and I wish they had been. I wish they hadn't. I think it would have been more popular if they had it. So yeah, I mean, at Does this mean, because we got the second season of Punisher already, right? So this is it. This is the last.
Yeah.
This is the end of the Marvel Netflix universe, right?
That's it. It's done. And I guess I really hope they either, once they realize that that they killed off everything, there's some sort of like, I would like for them to do maybe a send off, maybe like in the last few episodes, maybe, because there's been cameos with everybody. Like everyone's crossed over into other episodes of the Netflix Marvel universe before. I wouldn't mind like a final, like they go off into the sunset and form the Defenders or whatever.
I read some comment online that what people would really want is like a Thanos snap, and suddenly they all dust away at the very end. And I'm like, oh, that would actually
right.
that would
but then they got brought back, right? Everyone got brought back, or I mean, so
maybe that gives everyone hope, right? That's the jam, right?
we don't do hope. We don't do hope. It's really, I don't understand. Like, I get
this
it.
This is the Mid-Geek crisis, not the Mid-Geek hope.
Yeah.
No, wait, that doesn't work.
I don't know. Okay. So what are we supposed to do here? Like Nintendo, Disney, another big conglomerate. We've always known that they were getting bigger and bigger.
Sure.
They obviously at one point believed in these Netflix shows. They gave the creative rights to Netflix to do these shows. They funded it. They said it was part of the cinematic universe in some way. I mean, they referenced the cinematic universe, with the incident and whatnot. They always reference it, but they never were brave enough to bring any of those characters over into the cinematic universe.
Yeah, but then they made like a bajillion dollars. Like, this is not.
No, sure. I mean,
like,
I'm not saying
last few movies broke all sorts of records.
No. It has nothing to do with money. It has nothing to do with money. What I want to know is,
we're talking about Disney.
I know, but I'm talking more along the lines of, I'm trying to get away from like the fact that it's about money and more along the lines of the creative aspect, like the guys, the showrunners, the people that are like, invested. I mean, because Disney and Marvel have these, big creative heads that kind of write this like overarching story so that they can go, okay, phase 4 will have this, and
sure,
introduce the X-Men in phase 5 now that we've got the Marvel, the Fantastic Four and X-Men are now part of ours. So how are we going to bring those characters in? Because they already ran out of Iron Man and Captain
America. So nice. You're imagining a much more put together.
Well, I mean, that's right. Well, that's what they have done, right? Like you have 22 films.
Yeah, but they've had 30 years of writing comic books and they still don't get it right. Like,
but the difference there is you have many years, but for good 10, 15 years, you get concisive stories before someone comes in and reboots it all in the comic book world. And also,
I don't even know that the stories are concisive. I mean, like, even now when I'm trying to jump into things, I don't know what the hell's going on. Like, it's impossible to jump into some of these comic book series without serious effort. Putting that aside, I think they're still. I mean, I don't know how to divorce the money from it, Joe. I think they have to look at what are their properties that they're going to make the most amount of money now, while the iron is hot. Disney's not going to miss this chance. They know exactly what they're doing. Right. Because eventually people are going to get tired of superheroes, and you don't want to oversaturate the market. You want to put.
Well, what? That market is already saturated, don't you think? Like there's a superhero movie.
You know what? It's not. It's not oversaturated because Disney owns it all. There's nothing competing. I mean, like, I'm all due respect to DC Comics.
You're right.
Universe. There's nothing competing with the Marvel. There's no other superhero franchises out there. They're trying to build them, and they just fall down. I mean, Hellboy disappeared before we even had a chance.
God.
Like, before the seats got warm, they were gone, right? Like,
right. So, like, what? I mean, I sent you this story through chat. I was like, "Hey, man, did you see this?" And
3 weeks, 4 weeks, it was gone. Like
1 month. It was a 1 month run. It made total $21.9 million in its entire run.
Yeah, which is,
and the studio pulled the plug, aka they pulled it from theaters, because it if for people who are listening or watching, if you familiar with the movie industry works, when a movie's out, like it's released and it's sitting on like it costs them money.
Mm-hmm.
So like they've leased out views to movie theaters, and so those movie theaters will run that movie whether there's anyone in those seats or not. So if they pull it, that means movie theaters will then be able to fill that house with a movie that someone might actually want to watch.
Right. So the movie theaters probably complained about it. It was just a disaster.
Yeah. So it's a disaster because it makes it so that, I guess the best way to put it is, if you are a movie studio and you have multiple movies and you release a movie that is a stinker, it makes it less likely for that movie theater to want to put multiple screens for your next film. They want to trust you. An example, if the studio, I can't even remember who did it, if it was New Line, or I don't remember who did the MG.
I think it was New Line. No, wait, it was the other one, Millennium Gate.
Yeah, one of the big ones, had Hellboy, and so now what's going to happen is the next movie that studio releases, movie theaters are going to be like, and they'll maybe run it one theater when it could be, and if that movie is good, big enough, then they might order more print after the fact, but they lose money. They're leaving money on the table. So that's why studios pull movies.
And Disney doesn't leave money on the table.
No, Disney they've got more money than,
I know you want to divorce it from the money, but this is distribution, man. Disney Plus is going to come in and it's going to ruin the industry, the streaming industry hardcore, and all the shows are going to be there. They're going to create content there. There's already like web-based shows that they're talking about. All this, like Disney Plus is going to where Marvel's going to live when it comes to TV series and things like that.
For PG-13 content.
Yeah, PG-13 content. Why not?
PG, whatever the minimum is. We already talked about the fact that Hulu is essentially
not interested in creating. They're interested in capturing that middle market, man. They're not interested in the R-rated. They're not interested at all.
Well, you say that, and you're going to eat those words because you know, and I know that Deadpool makes them money.
Yeah, but Deadpool makes them money without it being Disney.
But it is Disney's now.
Now,
right?
I mean, that's just
they're not gonna tank it. But they're not going to throw it away, and who's to distribute it, and where? They're
not going to expand it.
You think Deadpool's done?
Honestly, yeah. I mean, I think Deadpool 3 will be done. I don't think there's going to be. I don't think any of those executives in the Disney boardroom are going to be happy with being associated with Deadpool 3.
All right. Well, we got to pull that one. We got to pull that one. You're
gonna pull it. I just think that Disney is focused on family content.
It's too big. Deadpool is too big. They've got kid backpacks out there with Deadpool on it, man.
So what's going to happen is they're going to make Deadpool less R.
And that is where even the kids are going to be like, this isn't the Deadpool that I snuck and saw.
He could still be very funny without penis jokes. He could still be very funny without penis jokes. He could be.
I believe this. I was the one that got into a huge argument on Twitter and Facebook many years ago.
On the internet?
On the internet, right? I was the one that got into a big argument with somebody about the fact that Deadpool has always been marketed to kids. And I got into this big argument about it, and people were like, no. And this was around the time when Deadpool 1 hadn't released yet. And if people can remember, jog their brains, there was a lot of news stories out there that were like, oh, petition to make Fox make it PG-13 so that their kids can go see it. There were parents that were kind of outraged even before the movie came out. They were like, my kid wants to see this movie that's coming out, but I can't take it to him because it's rated R.
Right, and all the armchair warriors were like, well, just leave your kid at home.
Right. So all these armchair warriors were definitely like completely like outraged about them. Oh, you shouldn't let them watch it. You should be better parents. You shouldn't even.
Joke's on them. I brought all my kids to the show anyway.
Right. Yeah, right. So the idea here is there was just this big outrage of like, well, but then they questioned the parent, like, well, your kid shouldn't even know about Deadpool because it's never been marketed to kids. I mean, I seriously got that, and I was like, are you serious? And I pulled up all these like toys. Like at the time, Disney was running the Marvel superhero, the little chibi
chibis, all sorts of Deadpool stuff.
They had a Deadpool version of it, and I'm like, so how do you explain that they've got a toy based on
Easter egg for the parent,
right? And backpacks and lunch boxes and all sorts of toys. My point is,
dude, I know. My point is that
Deadpool has been marketed to kids left and right. So I'm agreeing with you that Deadpool can work as a PG-13 movie because
Yeah, and they're just going to push the boundaries of PG-13.
right, his silly slapstick antics work for PG-13. I'm okay with that. The problem is you've got two movies that have made a ton of money, almost like a slap in the face to Disney by going, here's a franchise that did not have the Disney blessing, and we just made Disney money off of it.
Well,
So that means that there is a market for it, and Disney's going to go.
I know Disney money is $1 billion now.
Well,
it's not 400 million.
It wasn't. Deadpool 1 and 2 made more money than a lot of the Marvel movies did.
Not more than the last 3.
Yeah.
Well, maybe Captain Marvel. I haven't
more than Captain Marvel. It made more than Ant-Man and Wasp. It definitely made more than maybe Thor 2. Not as much as Thor 3. But I got to look at the numbers.
Garbage. Ant-Man and Wasp is boring. Captain Marvel was by all counts.
Let's play this because we're
going to research it now.
Well, I think we got to see. We can't put our mouth. They made enough money with it to re-release the movie again. Like Fox was like, you know what, we'll release it. And for Christmas, they did the Once Upon a Time.
Well, they needed to do that right before the deal, right? They wanted to make a little bit more money, squeeze.
Right. Make the pot sweeter. But by then the money wasn't going to them anyway. Who knows? Let's see. Box Office Mojo.
The only source for box office receipts for movies, by the way, if you're looking to solve problems like this, Box Office Mojo.
So worldwide, it made $785 million, and that's part 2. All right. Okay. So part 1, let's take a look here. So part 1 worldwide made $783 million. So close to $1 billion. So both of them combined made about, close to $2 billion.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, and then we can go look at other movies like Captain Marvel. Worldwide, it made 1.1. And that was because of distribution. Because Disney has bigger distribution rights to the worldwide than Fox did.
So yeah, but Deadpool's number 15 in the rankings, man. So you got Avengers Endgame, Black Panthers, Infinity War, Avengers, The Dark Knight. DC is up there at number 5. Avengers, Dark Knight Rises. These are the biggest movies. Wait, Captain Marvel made more money than Deadpool.
Yeah, it did 1.1.
Yeah, so there is something to be said there, right? So there we go. I wonder. Maybe I could be wrong. Maybe Disney will feel okay making an R-rated film, but those executives, man, those guys.
My point isn't saying that they can't. My point is more along the lines of how would they do this, and would they have the? I guess my argument here is I think they totally can. They've done it before. Disney has owned rated R studios under the not Disney line, right?
Which is the way they might do it.
But and I say this with the biggest heart. It's I'm trying to figure out people want interconnectivity. We have grown accustomed to the fact that you've got a universe, the MCU is interconnected. Like the fact that you can have Iron Man in your Spider-Man movie. You have cameos of Hulk in your Thor movie. Where would you allow a character like Deadpool in his own solo Disney movie and then him cross over into a PG-13 movie, and would that be okay?
I don't care.
I don't care.
I would be surprised if Disney does it.
But my point being is the moment you create that's what I'm saying. If they make a part 3, it'll be under the Disney umbrella. But then it would be the first Marvel movie that Disney makes that isn't connected to the DC to the overall arching universe.
So what? Why is that important? So what?
Because they won't do that. That's what I'm saying. Is they haven't released anything. They kill anything cinematic. The point is, if it's under the Disney umbrella, it has to belong under the MCU. They have not made any spin-off universes in cinematic form. The Netflix.
You know what else they haven't done? They haven't bought Fox before. Yeah. I'm just saying that things can change now because no one can compete with them, Joe. They could do different things now because they can go, fuck you, money. That's all I'm saying. Who's to say what they want to do? They're going to have a whole R-rated line. They're going to have a whole PG-13 line. They're going to have a whole TV line, and and Joe's going to be like, wow, now I have to follow all of these universes. Honestly, I don't care if the X-Men appear in the Avengers. That feels complicated to me. Maybe have the X-Men and the Deadpool universes.
No one wants that. No one wants that.
No one wants that. So, like, just
everyone has been wanting their X-Men and their Avengers mix. Like, everyone wants an appearance of Wolverine showing up with your Avengers.
You know what I don't want to do? I don't want to have to explain 700 new characters to my noob wife. I don't want to do that anymore. Every movie I go to now, she's like, who's that? Who's that? Who's that? Which I imagine everyone has to do it. Imagine like a new X-Men and you got to watch, oh, God, why is this guy fighting that guy? Oh, there's like 400 years of reasons. I can't. This is the Secret Wars. Oh, it's miserable. I don't want to do that. I'd rather have separate universes. Just X-Men on one side, Deadpool, and Avengers. Of course it's not going to happen because the first time they do it, every Goomba's going to show up and drop $35 on their movie night.
The thing is,
about it all day
what I'm saying is we've already had that. We've already had a separate universe, and everyone's like, it feels stupid to have these Marvel characters.
I want to make it clear to you, Joe. It feels stupid to you because you read the comics, man. It doesn't feel stupid to me if the movie's good. X-Men felt stupid because the movies weren't good.
Right.
I don't need them together. I don't. I mean, like, you could have them touch and talk.
It's not about being together. It's about them existing in the same universe. The same rules. You've created this rule set. Like,
there's no rules in this universe.
Rules in this universe. That's what you're not understanding. It's like it's no different than any other franchise that we've watched. Like Star Trek, there are rules in Star Trek. You can't have.
They break all the time, dude. Are you kidding me? There's rules all the time that they break all. They literally fucking time travel in these films to break the rules. Are you kidding me?
No, I stand by what I'm saying. I stand by it. There are rules set to these universes.
Speaking about, I'm going to transition this. Speaking in a world of no rules, let's talk about some rumors going on with Borderlands 2. I'm going to rough turn this away. Speaking in a world with no rules, there are rumors out there that Borderlands 2 is dropping some DLC. Let's talk about how that changes the landscape. What do you think? E3, they're going to drop the DLC or no?
Yes.
I think so too. I think it's a big game changer. I think they know what they're doing over there in that studio, man. They just know what they're doing and how to get hype up for a game that folks have been waiting for in an environment where people only want to play Battle Royale. They only want to talk about multiplayer. I think they know what they're doing. Or multiplayer PvP as opposed to co-op.
They've had years to stew on this.
Yeah.
They've had years to kind of go and say, what is the gaming landscape doing? They've had years of where's my Borderlands 3, which meant that they could have this, that they can kind of, they had all this time. Like, we don't know when this DLC was created. Obviously, it was created years ago. They knew Borderlands 3. They had a story written for Borderlands 3. So
they've just been sitting on this thing, just letting it sit there and like in the vault.
Oh yeah. I guarantee you, you will never know. I mean, for all they know, they're going to go, oh, we created this, in tandem, a year ago.
We were going to drop it with the Handsome Jack collection, but we wanted to hold on to it.
Right. No, they'll never say that. They'll just say that they were going to, but they won't say when. And you're going to hear voices are different and sounds are different, and because they're the original people from the original Borderlands.
That would be amazing. That would be amazing.
Yeah. I mean, it'll be the same voice of Claptrap because we have a new Claptrap voice, by the way, if you didn't notice that or didn't pay attention to that.
I did see that, yep.
Yeah, so that's been a weird point. And that was also one of those weird stories that went under the radar, but they said...
Oh, yeah, I mean, I felt like I don't feel like I'm tapped deeply into game news, and it was on my radar, right? I was like, oh, okay, all right, a little bit of...
Was it weird, though? I mean, did you read that? If for those unfamiliar, there was a news story that came out a couple weeks back, maybe a month back, that said the original voice actor to Claptrap has been replaced, and he is a new voice because they had seen the gameplay footage to Borderlands 3, and they noticed that the voice was slightly different, and then sure enough, they found out that it was completely different. And then they said, there was an interview, and they asked one of the devs or whatever, it's like, we asked him to come back, and he declined or whatever, that's what they said. But then the voice creator tweeted out and goes, nah, man, they just didn't come back to me. They
with money.
Yeah.
with money, which in an industry that's so well known for treating its employees right, I'm frankly
I'm shocked. Yeah, so like
shocked.
that's an interesting one. I mean, it's not a big enough thing to like boycott it or anything, but definitely kind of stings a little bit considering that Claptrap is the face of the franchise.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's Claptrap, Marcus, and I guess Tiny Tina. Although she's great, but yeah, those were the three voices from Borderlands 2 that really made the game blow up for me, right? Oh, and the Hulk Hogan guy.
Yeah. Well, I mean Torg, but I mean Torg is like a DLC. He's extra. I'm talking like you look at anything.
He's the quest giver. Claptrap's the first quest giver. He opens the game every time. No. It wouldn't be a Borderlands game without Claptrap getting into trouble and handing you your heads-up display at the beginning of the map, right?
Right. So and he's the voice that everyone loves to hate. I mean, he's kind of like in your ear. You kind of hate him. He's a playable character in the prequel.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that here's this main face to the franchise. I mean, for God's sakes, the Pop Funkos. There's like 15 different versions of them. When they released the Handsome Jack collection or whatever, they had like an RC version of him, like a drivable.
Yeah, he's the Pikachu of Borderlands.
I mean, that's exactly like the funny comedy relief mascot face. Yeah. So to replace his voice is obviously there was some falling out in some way. Form, and it seems like
there's been a lot of falling out at that studio, though. However, so
yes. If anyone reads or follows along to what happened with Gearbox and some of the writers and developers, and that was one of the big questions if they were going to have Tiny Tina back as the voice, because there was some falling out with the brother. The brother of Tiny Tina was one of the head creators of the story of Borderlands 2, which did not come back for Borderlands 3. So. I'm interested on what happened.
I assume they backed up a ton of cash to her because her voice, to get it away from Fortnite, must have been a interesting endeavor. Because she basically, I don't want to say she basically plays a Claptrap version, but I mean, Fortnite's Save the World character is definitely a little bit Claptrappy / Tiny Tina mix going on. So,
yeah.
I'm glad she's back, which is great. I'm looking forward to Borderlands. I mean, I won't lie. I'm looking for. I hope that the worst news is behind us. I don't want
anything to sour ruin or sour, because I could play other games. I love Borderlands 3, but I could play other games, right? I could, but I don't want to.
I vote with my dollars. You don't.
I do. No,
you do.
No.
I vote with my dollars. We'll see how it goes.
I don't go to Chick-fil-A, and I live in Texas. Like it's like a sin here.
Yeah, but you got Whataburger.
Yeah, but I don't go to Chick-fil-A.
I don't, giving up a chicken sandwich that honestly is so
overblown. See, I agree with you.
So overblown.
I totally agree with you. But to this day, and I do not, it doesn't matter what time of day it is. If there's a Chick-fil-A in that parking lot, there is a line down the street. But there's another Chick-fil-A 2 blocks that way. I don't get it's service. They're so nice to you. It is crap chicken on a bun.
I don't really think it's that great. I mean, I don't go to Hobby Lobby. There's a lot of places I don't go to.
I don't go to Hobby Lobby anymore. Like I don't. I vote my political affiliations and whatnot aside.
About the only sin I do is I buy Apple iPhones, and I order from Amazon. Those are my two big sins. I think my consumerist sin.
Yeah. What I'm getting at is there are some things where they're big enough where if there's a big enough stink, I'm just not going to do it. Or you know what? I'll steal it. There's tons of ways to play something online for free without giving them any money. What? I'm just saying.
Like, the pirate.
I haven't pirated a game in years.
When I was I don't know how deep you want to go to this, but when Penny Arcade was going through its troubles, if you will, I bought tickets. I went, but I also donated, right? So
you offset, right?
A carbon offset, right? A 2x what I paid for the tickets, I donated to shelters and things like that. So
I have had this conversation before.
That was my only way to make it okay.
Right.
If I'm voting with dollars one way, I should vote with dollars more the other way. So that's
right. But at the same time, you and I have had this conversation. And I think we came to the same agreement here, where. Internet outrage aside, once we find someone to have done a sin of any type, and that person legitimately apologizes, it feels like the apology goes on deaf ears.
Uh, well, I'm not a big fan of cancel culture, right? I guess if we want to get into it, I think.
Right. No, I mean, we should talk about it because it is part of. I've got to raise my boys in this kind of culture where it's like if they make, we've gotten to the point where anybody makes any mistake, I mean, they're just drowned and there is no redemption. And I feel like the point of me being outraged about something, I mean, this is me. I'm not talking about you or anybody.
Sure.
I'm just saying, if something outrages me because someone made a comment or made something, the reason I'm outraged is because I have the audacity that someone would do something like that. And if they come back and go, you know what? I was wrong. I want to learn from this. Teach me better. And when someone says that and all I hear from the same people that like condemned them is nothing but hateful speech, like, I hope he dies. I hope this person dies. You know what? At that point, when are we any better than the person that said the terrible things?
I agree with you. I mean, there's a real
education. We want people to be allies, to be friends, treat people good. So when someone does a mistake and then they go, you know what? I'm sorry, I said something that I shouldn't have. I should learn. Let me donate, all the proceeds to like these videos to this organization. Let me go out there. No, what they see it is immediately they go, and I say they as in the overarching community that
not good enough.
Anybody, is they go, oh, he's just selling out. He's afraid of losing subscribers or losing whatever. And I'm like,
that too.
Yes, sure. Hit him where the word hurts. But if we can get anybody to pay attention and learn from their mistakes, how else are we supposed to, what kind of forgiving culture are we supposed to be? Like, if we are outraged because we saw someone, like a whole community be like mistreated because of comments.
Sure.
And if that person that made those comments goes, you know what? I was wrong. Let me make it up. And we as a community then go, you know what? We don't care what you want to say. Then at that point, how are we any better than the person that made the bad comment?
I also think it encourages people not to apologize. Like, I wouldn't bother. I'd be like, well, they're not going to listen to me anyway, so I'll just keep being an asshole.
Right.
Why? So, I think there's kind of two different mechanics at play. I mean, personally, I think there are folks who are all like, oh, way to go. James Gunn's a perfect example. We're like, yeah, way to go, James Gunn. For the most part.
So that's a funny one.
There's also haters, and there's also haters, and that's fine. I think there's folks who would rather not see them anymore, and I get it. They might have a reason for it, an emotional reason for it, and then there's folks I think that the only analogy I can think of is like Fox News. There's folks that profit from it. There's a whole ecosystem that profits from that outrage, and like you get the blog post, you post an article, then there's another article that references your article, and then there's a whole
trickle down of hate.
There's a whole trickle down of hate, and then it's hard to backtrack off that hate, right? So you've gone all the way out there, and now
you've got your followers to jump on it and like go, I agree with you. This person is terrible. But then if you come out and you're like, hey, James Gunn's apology was actually pretty good, those people have already, they might hate you and you'll lose them, right? So there's a real thing. Well, did you watch the Flat Earth documentary on Netflix? No, it's on the list. I want to watch it.
You should watch it because I mean, spoilers, right? But there's a moment where one of the people are talking about how like it would be. I think they ask him like, what if scientific evidence tells you that you can't, that it's not flat, right? That it's round, right? Which is a weird sentence to say out loud. But what if
something actually convinced you?
Yeah. What if it turns out you're wrong? And there's this moment I think where they kind of realize how hard it is to leave that community that becomes so much a part of, right? They're the YouTube personalities for the flat Earth community. So if you suddenly come out and you're like, you know what, NASA took me up in a space shuttle and it's a sphere and I was wrong, well then everything's gone. You've lost all your subscribers, you've lost your friends, you lost the people who believe in you, you've lost your church, right? So like if you're the high priest of flat Earth, right? So how could you ever let your mind be changed, right? Which I think is a little bit of that on the internet, right? It's extremely, once you become embedded in this like, and we're happening with politics, this tribal culture, I think it's hard to.
You can't turn your tribal. You can't turn your back on
because you're going to lose your friends.
Right.
I mean, like what? I mean, like let's. I mean, the hard question, right? I mean, if there's a terrible person that's part of a gamer staff, and I have friends who are passionate about that kind of thing, and they say to me, how could you buy that game? This person did XYZ and that happened to me and I could never play that game. That could impact me, where I'm like, man, like just playing this game is making this person's world a little less nice. Maybe I shouldn't play the game. So like, it's hard. Like, you got to make those kind of personal choices.
I agree.
And I get it. And I'm with you too. I also think
I have to pick.
We don't know how to apologize. We don't know how to apologize, and we don't know how to accept an apology, which is, I think, the second most important step, right?
Right. It's a twofold process. You can't teach someone to say sorry if they don't know how to accept an apology. Like
at both, right? They both have to.
Right. It has to be both ends, because if you don't do both ends, then what ends up happening is you, as a person that wants to apologize, you won't even believe yourself.
You won't believe yourself.
Why would you believe your own apology if you won't believe anyone else's apology?
I'm with you. It's I come back to Rogue One a lot. There's that scene where the captain's character, he says something to the effect of like
Cassian. Yeah.
Cassian. He says something to the effect of like, I can't give up on this now, the things I've done. Right. Like I can't let this, I can't lose like this. I've killed people, friends, right? And I'm like, I mean, that's an analogy for terrorism, but I also think it's an analogy for this kind of outrage culture where, like, I've said terrible things about James Gunn. How could I backtrack from, like, I went over the cliff already. There's no backtracking off the cliff. I wished he was dead, verbally online, and now he's apologized. Well, can I actually be like, oh, it's cool now, come on back?
Right.
That's a hard place and I get it. I mean, we're positioning ourselves in weird places. I'm lucky in that, like, I'm lucky in that I don't have many hard lines that way, and I don't know if it's the way I was educated or
it's about you are
not hard lines makes your life hard, right? So I've tried to make my life easy by being a little soft, a little bit, but by being a little soft around the edges.
And I get, my analogy to that, and this is not attacking you or anything, has always been one of my favorite characters in favorite movies, Dogma.
Dogma, yep, Kevin Smith, of course.
They talk about Loki's character, and they said that he was a fence sitter. He sat on the fences between the battles of good and evil, and then when push came to shove, and they saw he decided to join the side that won, and God rejected him and threw him back over, and was like, "No, man, you didn't fight the good fight. You threw him back to the demons." That I always think about that line because I think it's hilarious, because he's a character that's like so angry about the whole situation that he causes the whole movie to kind of be created, because he, etc. But my point is right. It's hard to set these hard lines, but then when you're not battle worn with the rest of your brethren and on the winning side,
what do you really belong to?
What do you really belong to? And I get it. I have to kind of sit on the line sometime on both sides, so depending on what it is. The James Gunn one, we're using it as an analogy. We're not, but that was one that I also sat and waited. It was like, again, it was that outrage culture made me angry because everyone jumped on it. At the same time, you saw it was one of the weird ones, because when that happened, there was more people protecting him than I've seen any type of any other person, and that was because it was a Disney franchise, huge movie.
Also, he wasn't a systemic asshole, right? Like, he wasn't.
Right. He had done good things. He had made mistakes.
And he had grown up.
It happened many years ago, and he had apologized, and he was sincere with his apology. Again, this is back to my whole point is, and yet some people didn't accept it. I get it. And I'm not saying you should. I'm not here to tell anyone they should accept an apology. I'm just saying that we should really pay attention to when people do apologize, because he really was willing to lose it all. I mean, he said himself, I'm just using him as an example here. He was one of those that was willing to walk away from a beloved franchise that he had written. Like, he wrote those movies, and he was like, they don't want me anymore. And he walked away. And then he took a job at DC, and they gave him the job for the next Suicide Squad. And then Disney was like, man, we really can't move on from him because he has set the ground rules for this franchise. And so they asked him to come back, but they had to wait for.
Because Disney likes the money,
right? They like the money. But my point being is then the moment they brought him back, there was like, yay, hooray! And I was just like, this is interesting, because if it had been a lesser director in a lesser movie studio in a lesser situation, there would be bigger sides. But this time around, I really saw most people on the fence with cheering James Gunn on. And
I
so
think,
I don't
I
have too
mean,
many people that I know that want
not to believe it. I think he also gave a good. I think he also gave a good apology,
Yeah,
and
no, absolutely.
people
He gave a good
protected
apology,
him,
but
right?
we accepted
Even the
the apology.
people who protected him did a good job of couching that protection in terms of like, hey, he's grown up, not in terms of like, how could you say that? It was much more like it was probably the best example of walking back from that kind of what's the word I want to use? Not catastrophe, a public disaster. One of those
Right.
uh, from that kind of public relations mess, right? And we all make mistakes. I'm glad I don't live on the internet as much as these folks did. And again, these I have things in my past that would definitely come back to haunt me where I'm a more
Right.
public individual. Things I'm not proud of. Things I would have to think about how to apologize for properly.
Right. And that's what I'm getting at is we live in this world where we are very public online.
Yeah.
Perfect example.
For the most part,
we're talking about right here. We film these. Who knows what we say on an episode. That might come back 20 years from now and go, you know what, that was a kind of shit to say. But what I'm getting problematic, right? But my point is we as humans know we make errors. If I was to go back and talk to myself in high school and some of the things that I've said, I'd be like, oh, dude, you're a dick. And I would try to correct.
Oh, I would not punch him so fast. Oh, now you're gonna listen to me.
Yeah, right. So we've all grown, but then when someone publicly does something, like a big person like James Gunn, all of a sudden it's like you're not allowed to have ever grown. You should have been the same person you've always been now, always. And so that person that you were then, you're obviously that person now. And that's where I'm like, I don't get it.
How does this work? No, and yeah, I mean, I don't really like cancel culture. I think folks. I think folks have a right to not consume media. I mean, we have so much media. Go consume whatever you want to consume.
We do.
I think the sort of weird.
And this has nothing to do with media in general. I'm just more along the lines of the internet outrage culture, cancel culture, and the fact that we are more willing to just burn someone at the stake than listen to them and actually accept an apology so that they can move and grow.
Well, because then I have to grow.
Right. And people don't want to grow.
I don't want to. I mean,
it's back to that. What are you fighting for anymore?
Wobbly bobbly. Yeah. What are you fighting for?
Because if you're not fighting for actual change, then why would you even bother fighting?
I mean, probably one of the most fun things you can do back in the day was find a witch and burn her. Like, I don't want to sound horrible, but like that was probably a big blast in the old village, right? That was a big emotional, adrenaline pumping moment. That's why it got so crazy. And that's what the internet gives us. It provides us that ability to go out and metaphorically burn the heretics, and then sit back and be like, well, that was, now I'm feeling a little down. Let's go find someone else, right? And at the same time, people should behave, right? People should be better, and better behavior.
I'm gonna wrap this up in a nice bow in the fact that what we talk about on this show is, I have this conversation in general. I don't like to bring it up very often, but because we touched on certain things,
sure,
it keeps me up at night a little bit because I have two boys.
You got two boys. I got a girl. I'm with you.
You have a girl. I have two boys. My two boys they're little shits sometimes, and I know they are, and I was a shit, and I still am a shit at many things. I am not the perfect human, and so with internet culture putting everything on blast, I worry about my kids. I worry about something they might say, something they might do. Did I teach them right? Everyone's all about like, oh, you should have been a better parent. Again, perfect example of like kids doing dumb things. It's like, oh, you should have been a better parent. And I never thought about it before, but now, like, as I'm getting older, I'm like, man, that hurts because I know what it takes to raise kids. I'm getting there. I'm going to have a 10-year-old in, 6 months. And I'm like, oh my God, like, he's going to get 13, 14, 16. Like when he gets old enough, like he's going to do something stupid, and at that point I'm like, how do I, someone's going to film it, put it online, it'll, that's what I'm saying. And like, as a boy, what if he accidentally grabs someone or touches someone? Did I teach him right? What did I do? Like, how do I, what's that? Like, what's going to happen? What are the repercussions? Can you, a 15-year-old can do something now and ruin his life. Or at least ruin it for
you can bounce back. I mean, maybe not
But
you're a white guy of
it's out
means.
there.
You're a white 15-year-old of means. Yeah, I mean, you can bounce back. I'm with you, dude. I don't know how to navigate that. I feel like my approach has been to keep R off the internet completely,
Right.
Which is crazy. I think you can't do that for much longer. I struggle with how to even get the damn kids to understand a person's body is theirs, and you need to ask, right? Like they just love touching and crawling and moving and oh god, it makes me insane sometimes how much they're all over my body, let alone each other's.
Right.
So I don't know how to handle it. I do try to make it clear that apologies are something you don't just say. You know?
Right.
It's sorry, and then how can I make it better? Not just
how can I make it better?
How can I make it better? Just Daniel Tiger, right? It's the
Daniel
Tiger message.
Yeah, exactly. That's
important.
It's a great show.
Which comes from Mr. Rogers, which we all know we all wish we had as a father, right? So that's where we are. But
that's exactly right. You're right.
And it should be sorry, how can I make it better? And once that person makes an attempt, you also have to give that person the benefit of the doubt and accept that apology. So, I mean, I guess we can all make the internet watch Daniel Tiger and Mr. Rogers. I don't know. We'd all be better off.
We'd all be better off. If you people aren't familiar, there's a gap. There's a time gap that didn't have Mr. Rogers. I'm sad.
And that's where the monsters grew.
That's where the monsters grew. I don't want to say, I'm not going to do the freaking old man millennials, because I think millennials get blamed for way more than they actually have done. I think
it's not Generation Z. It's like Generation Sans Mr. Rogers.
Sans Mr. Rogers, man. I believe it. Think about it. Like, look at that gap. There's a time frame on PBS that Mr. Rogers is no longer in massive circulation, and there was no Daniel Tiger.
I love your graph. Your graph is like time period when Mr. Rogers was there and Daniel Tiger was going on. You're like chaos right here.
Chaos right there.
I don't know that's causation. That's more correlation.
Everybody right there. That entire whole section of it. I'm serious. Like my kiddo Connell, he got to watch Daniel Tiger growing up. He was watching it.
Jeez, he's better for it. My kids watch a lot of Daniel Tiger too, and a lot of modern shows. Whatever. Anyway, it's good stuff. That's good stuff. I wonder how that'll bear out, right? And also I think we're going through growing pains right now. The internet, we're trying to figure out what the rules of engagement are on the internet and how long. What's the statute? Like, we don't even know what the statute of limitations are on spoilers, man. Like, there's so many little tiny ways we're behaving against each other that's sort of rubbing the wrong way.
Right.
And I think it's like when we all moved into the city together, like when cities got really populated, we just all stabbed each other in alleys, and then we learned how to live together. It's the same sort of feeling, right? We're right now in the stab in the alleys. We're too close. We're too much on top of each other. Either people are sharing news that makes me angry because it's too happy. Like, fuck, man, I don't need to see your ass on the beach again. Or they're making me outraged, and there's no real in between, right? So I just think they were figuring it out. Take a break from the internet and figure it out. play in the real world.
That's a funny thing, and then we're not going to get into that now, or it's a whole other topic we can jump on. But you're right. I'm confused on how we get there, because the internet keeps growing, things keep changing, social media is different. There's always a new platform, a new thing to move on, and everyone. I think everything in every form, whether it be Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, all of it, I believe in the truest hearts of hearts, even with the evil face that is Zuckerberg and all of these, these villainous faces that they show me. Everyone looks at Zuckerberg and is like, God, that guy looks evil, but in the hearts of hearts, I truly believe that everyone had a valid, altruistic reason to make the platforms that they did. I think Jeff Bezos created Amazon because he wanted people to what
is the road to hell paved with, Joe?
Good intentions. Absolutely. So that's my point is I believe nothing was ever created with bad intentions.
No, there was no malice. Maybe a few companies, but not them all. Right?
Not many. And Facebook, for all of its evils and hardships and privacy concerns and whatnot has done so much good for me, and keeping up with friends and family and sharing, 10 plus years of.
We just need to figure it out, man. That's really what it comes down to, and we'll figure it out eventually. Soon after all the computers get shut down because of
except Tumblr. No one liked Tumblr.
No one liked
Tumblr was always created as.
I like Tumblr simply because of that splash page that had the hot dogs all flying at the woman. It makes me laugh every time I think about it. Like, if ever there's an analogy for the internet itself, it is that.
Oh God. Yeah, just the hot dogs being thrown at someone's face.
She's just sitting there on the couch, and they're all just hitting her, and I'm like, oh my God, that's the best.
That's Tumblr.
It's Tumblr,
or Instagram DMs. Either way.
It's now everywhere now, which is sad.
Yeah.
But again, I think we'll come around, and there's definitely small, nice communities out there, and you outgrow. I think folks outgrow that outrage, right? Because you're young and you've got this fire, your heat. I think you get a little bit older, and either you go full extreme, like you go MRA crazy, or you join society and you learn how to live with that sadness and anger, right? I think we're talking as two old men who've learned to live with that sadness and anger, and I think the young folks just need to learn how to live with that sadness and anger, and they'll figure it out. They'll get the tools. Or they'll murder us all. Who knows? But I think it's going to be the former. I think the first thing they're going to do is figure out how to talk to each other, and on us, and our lecturing stupid ways, right? We're just old men who are like, oh yeah, no, I really appreciate your passion here, but do you really think anything's going to change? Like, really? Yeah, that's nice. You keep that up, buddy.
I know, it makes me sad. I mean, we talked about this last episode where we talked about D&D and dating and whatnot, and how dating culture is so weird and toxic, and it is. And so, like, we can't even find relationships that we want to spend our entire lives with using the powerful tool that is the internet, because all we have done is dilute it to a point where you literally have an app that's just called, who the fuck. That's what it is. I mean, it's literally, you open it up like swipe. Okay, you send it. It's literally eggplant. You just send eggplant, and then they go yes, and then you just get an address, and you go.
All right, Grandpa.
I'm just saying.
Let's put down the cane and stop shaking your fist.
Yelling out cloud.
I just we'll close it out on this good news, right? I ended my 2-year campaign this past Sunday with a group of 30-year-olds, late 30s, early 30-year-olds, and it went swimmingly, right? It was 2 years. We had the big classic fight. Socially in meat space, we shared around a table in my in my basement. There were beers had. It was a nice way to end the campaign, and you weren't around for the end of my last campaign, so we do the big fight. It goes really well. Went really well. It was a very cinematic end, and the demon god that had been summoned was marching forward and trying to escape its bonds, and Adam, playing his Attical cleric character, had a 5th level spell in his pocket that I didn't know, which was like a banish good and evil. And he preserved it perfectly with the wizard who had bounded the demon, and they just had this huge cinematic moment where they cast a big spell and managed to banish the demon right there. I mean, they still had like 200 hit points, and they managed to get rid of it. It was great. It was a spectacular.
Was it roll a save kind of thing? Like,
it was roll a save kind of thing, and they all worked together. They used their inspiration cards to give advantage.
Help. Yeah. That's always the one thing that I've got to teach my.
They cast there was a spell called like Atalak's Magic Sphere, and it makes you invulnerable, but you can't do any damage. They actually cast it on my demon. So my demon became invulnerable but couldn't do damage to them. So it was sort of like while they strategized and got rid of the other things and things like that. So it was great. It was awesome. And then at the very end of a campaign, I give everyone like a cutscenes at the end. Like, what does your character do now that you've defeated this demon god? And each of them sort of some of them went darker than I thought they was. Like Attical he was like, my character strips off his clothes and goes naked in water deep, like just preaching against gods and that there is no god because he's destroyed a god himself. And I'm like, all right, awesome. They'll show up later. Write that down. And, everyone else sort of did their thing. It was good. It was nice. It was a nice, solid ending for a rather eclectic and chaotic campaign. So it was good. I was glad to.
Any strings left not pulled?
So there was a few. I mean, like, You know what? I mean, I don't know how other DMs do it, but I tend to like throw hooks out and bits and pieces of information and see if the players pursue it. Right? I don't. I read a lot of DMs that kind of create these really in-depth campaigns, and then they're always like, "Oh, the players took me off the rails." I literally do not write a story.
You just give hooks, and that's how
I
I've been
just
doing
give
it.
hooks, and like the idea that the idea that the NPCs are doing something without the heroes nearby, I'm just like, why would I do that? Because the whole game is about the heroes. Why would my people come back? Why would I mean, I'll have them a bit more powerful. I might outflank the players if they don't follow something, but I'm not interested in writing a book. So in that sense, I think it wrapped up nicely, right? But it definitely. I mean, campaigns should end like Lost, right? Where you're like, wait, what about everything else? Yeah, there was a lot of stuff we didn't talk about. Mixin, Jordan's character had a sister that I introduced late in the game.
Wow, and then she disappeared.
She disappeared.
What did she open up? She opened up.
She opened up a dimension door and fell through it and disappeared. Right, and
right.
Lady K, Amber's character, had a brother that he kind of walked off the scene. Alexander managed to actually kill his mentor, so we closed that loop. And there was, little characters here and there that I kind of know I want to bring back into the universe when we play again, when I start up a new campaign.
I got dogs.
I got dogs. There you go. They tell you it's bedtime.
Yeah.
So it was great. It's bittersweet because it's like, what do I do next Sunday? Right? I don't have a campaign. I don't have anything. We're gonna try to play Star Wars a little bit for the summer, see how that goes, and then probably I'll start it up again in the fall after a little bit of break, a little bit of refreshing, a little bit of organizing as I organize my miniatures and get everything in order for the summer.
So is that the next jump here? You're gonna game for a little bit, not be the DM for the summer.
I mean, I'll be the DM for a bit. I've been DMing straight for about 4 years now, right? I took a little summer break here and there, a little winter break here and there, but it's just been me for 4 years, and it might be nice to play for a little bit, sit on the other side and see how the other side lives and refurbish that kind of like. It also allows me not to hate the players as much, right? So you sort of shed that sadness, shed that evil, come back fresh. Plus, I have to recruit more players, right? I mean, it's three. I got 3 people that are around for a while, but 2 of them are having a kid. So
yeah, in like a couple weeks, right?
Like 2. I mean, I don't want to blow their spot up, but soon.
Yeah. I'm excited for them. Man. Wow. And then we'll have a third father to talk with.
Yeah, then we'll have another screen maybe up in the corner. Be 3 of us talking. He's in that first stage where it's just distilled work with no happiness.
I've got a friend of mine at work that just had a kiddo, and kiddo's a month old, like yesterday or 2 days ago, and
hardest month of your life.
It is, and it isn't like it is, but at the same time, the babies is still that like goo sleep for multiple hours. It's that after the first month, when the baby wakes up, when they get out of that like caterpillar stage, when they're like, the butterfly wings have like dried and they're like ready to like poop and cry, and that they realize that they eat way more than you think they do, and they wake up more than you think they do, and then all of a sudden, the video game hours start ticking away, and there's no more time to play video games.
And that's when you find out that you're like, oh my God, this little fucker doesn't know how to burp. Like this kid is crying because it needs to burp. Why? Why are we designed so horribly? Why are human beings so terribly designed?
Flawed.
Little lion cubs are running around taking down gazelles at like 2 months. We can't even burp properly.
Yeah, no, sure. We're like piles of goo that can barely fart without like
baby food. Baby food.
Yeah, exactly.
Ridiculous.
So.
Anyway.
Yeah, so I think that hits most of the topics that we had planned. Yeah, man. So Sonic delayed. Jessica Jones, goodbye.
Coming out.
Marvel Universe.
Well, there's 2 DLCs. A lot of ups and downs this session, but not much by way of news. We'll talk next week.
Absolutely. Guys, if you want to touch base on any of the topics that we talked about for this episode, please, by all means, chime in. We went a little in the self-righteous topics on this one, but I think every so often we need to do that. We need to really.
We can vent, dude. We can vent. Maybe next week we'll do some skit show. We'll
yeah.
We did the Charlie Rose show this time. We'll do the.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah, absolutely. But guys, it's important, right? Like as geeks, it can't be all rainbows and sunshines and video games and whatnot. Some of these things affect us all in multiple ways, and I think the overarching thing is not everything is nice, and sometimes franchises and stories and whatnot that we really love get affected by creators who are terrible people or aren't terrible people, and so how the fandom reacts, like us, is important.
We got to grapple with it because we're raising kids, which is where we started doing this in the first place, right? We got to raise our families.
It. We got to raise our families in some way, and hopefully we're teaching them the right.
Yeah, there you go.
Guys, like, subscribe, music from here to 4. Please like, follow, subscribe, do all the fun stuff. All right, guys? Anything else?
All
right.
Take care of each other.
Yeah, love you guys. Episode 31 in the can.